Okay, hello everyone. Thank you for joining this session. I've got a few people in person with me here as well, who y'all can't see. But if I'm looking around at the crowd, you can imagine them for yourself. And for you in-person people, you can just imagine well, I guess you can actually see the online people, but um, bear with me a little bit here. I know I look a little bit ridiculous with the headset half on, half off, but as some of you may or may not know, we weren't originally planning to have an online link for this as well. We added it after the fact, so I'm happy that we did, and y'all are able to be here. But yeah, bear with my headset half on, half off. And if anyone can't hear me anything, let me know. I'll do my best to speak louder, speak softer, whatever I need to do. But with that said, thank you so much for joining me. I'm Micah Armstrong. I forgot my name tag. It's right in there, but I'm not going to waste time and go grab it. I'm the manager of the service desk team. So we're responsible for all those contacts from you fine people, whether you've contacted us or not, helping with password resets and your email and network and all the various things that can break and do break on occasion, helping get those sorted. I'm here today to talk to y'all about enhancing productivity with M365 Copilot. Right off the top, I want to note a couple of things. One, it's going to be not a scattered session, but it's going to be a rapid session. We got about an hour, and my goal here is to talk through each of the different tools in the suite, or at least the primary ones, and let you know kind of the main functions that M365 Copilot enables there that you don't have without M365 Copilot, and just showcase a few examples of each of those. I won't be able to go in depth on every single tool. I'll try to answer as many questions as I can, but we obviously have a handful of tools to get through, so bear with me, and we'll be happy to answer more questions later on if we don't get to them in this session. The other one that I've got a slide later on, but just want to get off right at the top so you all know, M365 Copilot is currently in limited pilot for campus, so not everyone has access to it. Very likely that none of you actually do. So the goal here is not yet to say, here's what you can do with the access you have, but kind of previewing to you what M365 Copilot is, helping people understand it and building excitement for it. OIT is working on a plan for all of campus and seeing how we can spread this broader to the rest of the community. But right now it's a pilot. So I just want to get ahead of any of those questions going, oh, you're showing this, but I can't see it. Why is that? You don't have access. So we're going to talk about that some more a little bit later, but just FYI right at the top. My clicker doesn't want to work, which is fine because I'm right at my podium. Okay, so let's get into it. So what is M365 Copilot? So just a brief description off the top before we get into the tools. So M365 Copilot is you're familiar with Copilot itself probably at this point. So that's Microsoft's AI large language model chatbot. You can ask it questions and it'll help. M365 Copilot is an extension of that ties in directly with Microsoft apps to provide extra functionality for those apps, improve your efficiency, give you new features, and help you do things quicker, better, more efficiently. It also can use your work in other applications. So if you want to create, and you'll see this shortly, but if you want to create a PowerPoint and you have a Word that outlines everything you want to do with that, M365 Copilot now allows that connection between the tools, and it can use what you've already done so that you don't have to redo the work in a different position. This graphic that you can see here is just, I won't spend too much time on it, but that kind of demonstrates how it works. So you can see your customer data in that first box. That's what you do, your files, the work you're doing within Microsoft applications. That's part of our broader tenant. You have Copilot over on the left side of that, or the right side if you're looking at it. That's Copilot itself. M365 Copilot encompasses all of that to help together. And so it's looking at your data as well as all the general stuff that Microsoft has to help you with your efficiency. What's not included is, it's not your device, it's not the file itself, but it's taking that content and utilizing that information that you already have available to help you be more efficient. That's the whole goal here. With that said, if there's any questions there, Amanda or Katie, are either of y'all monitoring for questions? I'm not really looking. Okay, cool. Let me know if there are any. With that said, let's get into it. As I said, pretty rapid fire. So we're going to start with Word. We'll go through each of the different applications. I'll show some stuff, answer questions. We'll go from there. Conversational. Okay, so Word. What can M365 Copilot do in Word that you don't have without it? Two main things. One, you can draft text in new or existing documents. That is, without, if it's a new document, without having anything. You can just give it a draft, say, I want you to create something for this, and it'll help you. It'll get that first version created for you to then work off of. You can also chat with it to create new text, summarize information. If you're sent a Word document that you don't need to read fully and just want a summary, it can help you with those kinds of things, or help you revise. You write something and you go, I want to make sure the tone of this is right. You can ask it and it'll provide examples for you. So an example of that, I've got this file over here. Sorry. Okay, so I'm going to go to Word. So Word is just Word. You'll see throughout the session, I'm going to be in the web version the whole time. It works the same way on the app versions as well. If you have them downloaded, it's just easier to show for the demonstration, bouncing around on the different web versions. But I go to Word, I have in 365 Copilot. And so it shows me all of these great features that when you go to Word, you probably don't see right now. So apologies for that, but as I said, we'll discuss that more. And so say I'm coming here to write a new document, right? If I have something existing, I have this draft example that I pulled up, right? And so I can give it this example and I can say, I want you to write a draft about this. As you'll see though, this says about this selected file. And so what I can then do is I can go look at the other files I have. And if you don't know, Student Employment Week is coming up in mid-April. And so we're currently looking at different ideas for that, trying to determine how we can honor and highlight our student employees and do that. So I've got a file going, but I want to summarize it. I want to get more ideas. I want to generate something from that, right? So I can tell me, write a proposal based on these ideas, give it the file, generate that, and it'll think for a second. And then I will get something like this. You just get to watch it work. So what I told it, so now I skipped past that a little bit, but going to show, going to show how that works. So what I told it at the start, if I go back over here, was I said, write a proposal based on write a proposal based on the selected file. I want to include all the possible ideas that were already in the file. I want it to add further ideas that it has itself, and then highlight what it believes are the top 3 ideas, include explanations of why they'd be best to pursue. Again, these are ideas for Student Employment Week, National Student Employment Week. And so the first thing it does is it gives a little description and then starts creating the ideas. You can see they were already sectioned. So I've got free ideas, low cost ideas, and other ideas. And I told it to give me new ideas. And so it gave me some new ones. Organize a talent show, host a movie night, group fitness class. Do you want to do these with your students? That's up to you. But it can take that, look at what you already have, and also based on the context of what it's saying, give you more ideas or comment or analyze what you're doing. And then I said, just give me the top 3 so that I can streamline. I don't have to look through all of them. You can think about this. Tell me what the top 3 are. If I want to look through the whole list, I'll do it. Otherwise, just give me the top 3. Tell me why. And so it says those top 3 are doing a recognition program, a lunch outing with student employees, or creating goodie bags for the student employees. And it gives reasoning for each of those. Goodie bags are a tangible expression of gratitude that can brighten their day. A recognition program is a continual way to appreciate our student employees. And so instead of me having to type all this up so that I can then send it to someone and say, hey, here's the ideas that we want to pursue, you should obviously still do that review. It's not perfect itself, but it can do a lot of that brunt load of saying, here's the ideas I have, review them, analyze it, give me some suggestions, summarize that for me. So that's a draft example. The other type of example I want to show is you can then come back to it. I listed this as formatting, but this is also an idea, but you can have it help you with formatting on existing file, or you have another thought come to mind. You say, I want to express to leadership better about why we should participate in this, instead of you, not that you shouldn't write your own things, right? But instead of you just starting to spitball, you can have it give you that starting place. And so I've got this formatting example. I come in here. Where this differs, you'll now see I don't have those options up at the top, but I do have my Copilot button over on the right side. So I just open that up. It says, what can I do for you? It gives me some ideas, but I can say, I want you to do this for me. So how can we add more details to sell leadership on the need to take these actions? And so now it's looking at the file, it's looking at what I ask it for, and it's thinking about what kind of detail would we need to add to do that? And so then it gives quite a few ideas, actually. It changes time to time, so I think this is more than what it gave me the other day. But you can see it gives 5 reasons why, as well as some specific stuff from the access or the information you have access to within your Microsoft. So if you're not a member of it, you might not know, but SE Supervisor Connect is a channel that the Student Employment Office has to promote connection between the Student Employment Office and people who supervise students and give ideas there. So it can see that I'm in that channel, and it talks about how recent messages emphasize the need for that. I can review all that, and then you can see I get this fancy insert button. And so if I go, that's great, I want to insert that, I can pick where I do it. Let's say I'm going to do it before my top 3 ideas. So I come here, I go, you have to do it where you want. So I get my cursor there, I do insert, and there we go. Now I've got all that extra detail on the file for me. You can obviously review it, but it gives you that nice starting place where you don't have to think about every single detail and do all the typing yourself. That's Word. Again, we're going rapid fire here. So I'm happy to pause on Word for a second or go on to others. Questions about how that works in Word, or any kind of other examples that you have coming to mind that I can quickly do a prompt for and see how it goes? Let me check online as well. Okay. We just started playing some music in the student union. Hopefully my Teams is doing well and canceling that all out. If y'all can't hear me, please, they're turning it up. I think we're going to ask them to turn it down. Hopefully that's not bothering y'all too much. We'll get it sorted in just a moment if it is. They're really turning it up. Sorry about that. Okay, questions on Word from anyone? I'm not seeing any in chat, so if not, we'll go on to Excel as our next tool. Yeah, correct. So right now, there's a question about, do we have this functionality right now? So no, is the short answer. So M365 Copilot is an extension of Word and Microsoft tools. It's currently being piloted by a limited group in OIT and some select people in other departments. We're evaluating how to expand it wider, and I've got a slide on that later where people will be able to fill out a form so that we can help gauge interest on that. But there's two reasons. We haven't spread it wider. One, there's a cost for this license, so it's not free. We can't just kind of do it for everyone without evaluating that. But the second part is just kind of determining how do we do that on the back end in terms of licensing the right people. So we're working on those. We want to spread it wider, but no, right now, just a limited number of people can do those. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So there's a question about could Copilot in Word or other apps create a template? So definitely you could do, if you're doing a cover letter, right, or a resume or something like that, you can say, I'm working on updating my resume. I want you to create, and actually, here, it'll be a very rushed version, so it might not be the best ever, but let me do create a resume template for me. Don't put details on there, just highlight them. So very, very rough draft. You'd want to do more stuff, and you can see it even gives me suggestions here. I'll just press tab. That'll add those for me. Well, it went away, so I had to click back in. But just saying, don't put the details on there. Just create a template for a resume, and I can click generate. And how good will it be? That'll be for us to determine. But you can see it gives me a template. So it doesn't have the details, but it just says, here those section, here's the things you want to fill in, and it asks you if you want to keep it, or from there you can say, try again, or add this extra detail, change how this looks, and it'll retry until you're happy, and then you can just tell it to keep that. Okay, I'm gonna go, yes. Yes. It probably wouldn't, but what you could do, I showed how you can upload a file. What you could probably do is get the UTD template one, save that in your Word if you had this, and then have your own one and upload that file into Word and say, this is my current resume. I want you to translate it into this template, and then it could look at the two files. You can't just tell it to without it having the template for UTD, because it's not going to go on the web and you'll be able to find and download it and have it. But if you save both of them and just say, here's a template I want it to be on, here's the information I have, translate it to that template, it should be able to do that. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move on to Excel now, just for time reasons. If other people have questions on Word, definitely let us know afterwards, and we will, I'll circle around. We can create a ticket. We'll get you helped out. But moving on to Word. Word is cool, or not Word, Excel, sorry. Very scattered, like I said. So Excel's main function with M365 Copilot is helping you just do complex functions easier. So it can help you create formulas, it can apply rules on your document, it can summarize data for you, again, either for your own data, or if you're sent a file that says, here, help me with this, I want to find this. You're obviously going to want to review, but you can start out and say, Copilot, here's my data, here's what I'm trying to get out of it. Can you analyze this? Can you help me do that? So targeted questions. It also has a lot of suggestions. And so as an example here, I don't know if I've got any soccer fans. I'm a soccer fan. I found this data set for the Champions League. If you're not a soccer fan, don't worry about what the Champions League is. It's a tournament. But I found this data set. And so it's got all kinds of data, players, their goals, their assists, their defending, how much they ran, all these different numbers. So I've got a bunch of different pages on here you can see, and I've got tons and tons of data, goals, minutes played, all these different things. What it can't do, I'll get this out of the way, unfortunately, you can't have it summarize an entire document, so it has to look at whatever sheet I'm on at the moment. So I can't just say, look at all of this and give me whatever I want. But I can look at any specific sheet and say, here's the data on the sheet, here's what I want you to give, and it can help me with that. So some examples here. If I go back, you can see what I've got. So formula examples, what I'm going to show first. So if I go to the Goals tab over here, and then I pull up Copilot, you'll see it'll suggest a lot of things for me. And so I can tell it to do a specific thing, but I can also just use some of these suggestions, and I can say, suggest a formula column for me. And what it's going to do is it's going to look at all this data. It's going to say, what kind of insights could we try to pull from that? What data can be added together to give extra information and more context? So it's looking at that whole range of data like you can see. And then in just a second, it should spit out one or sometimes even multiple. It'll say, here's a couple different columns you can add it. It might even use those columns together. It might say, add this column, which is a calculation, add this second one, and then use those two to make a third calculation. In this case, what I got is just one. I did this the other day and I got 3, but that is fine. It differs time to time, but you can see this column is just total goals. So right now I've got goals, and I've got the goals broken out by position. Again, if you're not in soccer, I apologize. But then you also have penalties over here, which are not being counted for the total. So this person, Benzema, if you know him, so 15. So here's those 15, but then there's also 3 penalties. So his total goals is 18. And so if I do this, I can just click the insert column. I don't have to do anything with it. It'll put it in for me. And actually, again, as I mentioned, you kind of have to check stuff, because this is lying. The formula messed up, and he does not have 33 goals. So it's not perfect. As I've said, you always want to use it to review. The other day I did this and it did work. So that's an important point. You can have the same data, use the same prompt, and from one day to the next, it might tell you different things. I did the same thing 2 days ago. I inserted it and it's at 18 goals. So it calculated properly there. Why it does it, I won't tell you, not because I'm just hiding it, but that's just the AI. It's constantly evolving. It thinks about things differently from time to time, and so it's doing. I can't undo that, which is weird, because usually I can, but I can ask it again and say, just tell it suggest another formula, and it'll do that again. And then in just a second, I'll move to another example. But yeah, not the best example because it didn't really work out this time. But yeah, the other day, like I said, it gave me the right amount of goals, and it added 3 at the same time. It added 1, it added a second calculation, and then it broke down. I think it was looking at, you can see these right foot and left foot here. And so it added 2 columns and a third one, and it calculated what the percentage of the goals from either the right foot or the left foot was. So sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. There you go, total goals per match. If I insert that, you've got that new column. And again, that's not right because it's looking at this total goals, which is wrong. So always double check it, but a really good resource. Another example here, so adding a rule, you can see I've got on the disciplinary tab, I have this rule, which I'm going to tell it to add. So let me highlight this. I go to the disciplinary tab, and I'm going to say, what I'm asking it to do is highlight rows green, the entire row, where the person, each of these rows is one person, where they committed less than a certain number of fouls and played more than 5 games. So less than 10 fouls, more than 5 games. And so it looks at that, it gives me a formula, and then I can just tell it to apply. So I can review it, tell it to apply, and you should see in just a second. This one I don't expect to mess up. The formulas, it can, interpret things wrong. But you can see nothing green there just because I'm not far enough down. But now I go far enough down and I see this. So this is the amount of fouls, anything less than 10. But then that second part of the thing I added was more than 5 games. So this person right here had 4 games. And so he had less than 10 fouls, but he didn't have the right amount of games. And so he doesn't highlight it. So you can do rules with it. And then the third example I wanted to show was just a summary. So if I go to, and actually I don't need to copy that. If I go to this key stats page, you can see, and again, it's got these suggestions all the time. So you can type in whatever you want, but it gives suggestions. And so if I go here and I just say, show data insights, this is a key stats page. So it's just a summary for each of these different people. And so it should look at these and pull some type of summary about, either the specific people or the data overall. And so you can see what it does in this case is it says midfielders cover on average 11,451 units, and defenders covered less than that. And you can see it. It gives me both the data and a chart out of it. And I can say, okay, that's cool, but I want to see another insight. And I tell it that, and it'll look again, and it says, well, it looks like midfielders and defenders have more minutes played than other positions. So is it the data you want? Maybe not. But that's just because it's trying its best. If you just tell it directly, what you want to summarize, it'll do that for you. But it's nice sometimes if you have this data, you're sure you can find something out of it, but you're kind of stuck. You can just say, give me an insight. I'm trying to figure something out. Give me an insight, and it'll look at it and it'll try to give you some ideas. Excel, questions? Again, I know we're a bit scattered, but. I will be honest, I have no clue. So it's something I'm happy to. So for the online people, the question was if this integrates with the different data packs, Analytics Solver, and those different kind of Excel extensions. I have no clue. I haven't tried it myself yet. It might, but I just haven't looked into it. I'm happy to talk with you afterwards, and it should be easy enough to see, but just not sure. No problem. Other questions? Does anyone have an idea? I can type up a quick prompt if someone wants to try to see something. Let me double check online. Okay, I think there's some view options. I might start going full screen when I swap. If we're good there, we'll move on. Again, I'm happy to come back to Excel later if people have questions that come up, but for now, let's move into PowerPoint. So with PowerPoint, you can once again do a few cool things with Microsoft 365 Copilot. So you can have it draft new presentations for you, either from a prompt or similar to Word, you can give it a file and say, if you've got an outline for a presentation, but you haven't started on the slides yet, you can say, here's what I want to discuss. Give me those slides, and it gives you a nice starting point. If you missed it, Amanda talked about this in length in her session this morning. So if you didn't miss it, if you were there, some of this will be repeat for you, but we'll show a little bit, see if there's questions, and go from there. But if you did miss Amanda, she did a full hour session just on PowerPoint this morning. We are going to get that online, and so if you want to see more than what I cover here, definitely check that out. But yeah, draft new presentations. It can also summarize. You'll notice that theme throughout all the different applications, really. It does a pretty good job with summarizing data for you and helping with insights. And also assist with formatting or generating an image. If you're trying to go online and you want some funny image to put on your presentation, you just can't find it. It's great for saying, here's what I want to see. Give me an image of this to put on my slides. So if I go to PowerPoint, give me 1 second. So I'm going to do blank presentation, open up a new one. And that is weird. My PowerPoint is unauthenticated. Okay, so brand new PowerPoint. You'll see as soon as I open, it pops up this dropdown. So I've got create a presentation and I've got Ask Copilot. Ask Copilot is where you're always going to get this side banner. So that's where after the fact you can ask it questions, help with image generation, add more slides, all those kinds of things. But to create a fresh one, I'm going to do create a presentation. And then I'm going to do reference a file. This is quite old, but if any of you have ever been to our OIT forums, at one point I spoke at one of them, and so I wasn't reading the script word for word. I know it's, one moment. Apologies. I was not reading word for word, don't worry, but I had this kind of general script with just a few bullet points, so it's nothing extensive, but this script that I made up for myself to help me stay on track. And so if I do create a presentation, I can give it this file, OIT forum scripts, add some more context for it, presentation about that file. And I told it, make it professional and succinct, only 3 to 4 bullet points per slide, generate an image to attach to each slide, which represents the points being discussed. I'm going to tell that to go. This one will take just a second because it's looking at it. It's first going to give an outline of what it wants to create. And so for each slide, it'll list those kind of key points that it's thinking it needs to add. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So online people, just an FYI that I was just getting, sorry about that. I mentioned music in the student union a minute ago. We were able to delay it, but we can't delay it any longer. So music is going to start in just a moment. Hopefully my Teams noise canceling does well. If it doesn't, we are going to see what we can do about that, maybe move to another location, although I'm not sure how many options we have there, but we'll figure that out. Music's coming in now, so we'll see in chat how much that is hearing or coming through on y'all's side, but yeah, bear with us here. Anyway, you can see, so it gave me this outline. As I said, very short one. I don't want it to take too long to try to generate. So it gives me the outline, and I say, great, go ahead and generate that. If I think there's something wrong with the outline, you wouldn't see it because I went quickly, but there's a little pencil icon, and so I can click that and I can refine the prompt I gave it and say, this looks mostly good, but add a new slide about this point specifically. I want this to be its own slide. But once I do generate, it thinks for a second, it comes up with those slides. Again, I can trash this if I think it doesn't look great, but I can just say keep it, and then I've got my slides. And so you can see if they're short, succinct, only a few bullet points per slide. It's got an image on each one of them, and I can review that and do whatever I want with it. Apologies. Yeah, got a question. I can't hear you, sorry. Yeah. So it'll do a little bit of both. We had a question about if the images on the slides are AI generated, if they're pulled from other places. So the slides, they'll include both. So it looks at the web. M365 Copilot is not only generating, so it'll look at web, and it can use things like stock photos. It won't use like copyrighted IP copy. I'm saying the wrong word. Yeah. But it'll also generate stuff. So like this, I think, is probably an example where it just generated one. But something like this one is probably an example of a stock photo that it just found online and added. Amanda, how are we with sound? Is it coming through? Do you know? Okay.
Online people are
great. Okay, cool. I'm hearing online people are good. I'm glad you're able to hear. It's quite loud here. I'm going to try to talk a little bit louder for my in-person people, so apologies, online people. Touch down your speakers if you need to. But we're good. Show's on the road. We're still going. Okay, so that is an example of drafting a slide. I can also have it summarized, like I said. So this one's just a very, very simple example. I can pull up my chat window on the side here, and I can say, that's great, but go ahead and just summarize this for me. I'm working with my boss, and I've got this presentation going, and I want to say, here's just my very short summary. Here's one sentence. Here's what I'm going to talk about. Just summarize that for me. And so it looks at it, and it gives me this nice little summary. So you can tell that whatever you want. If I said, instead, do the summary with 4 bullet points, it should. We'll see in a second. But you can tell it whatever you want here. And so it should look at this, and there you go. Instead of 1 paragraph now, it's going to be 4 bullet points on it. And now it's a little bit simpler, to scan through. So there's a summary example, and then formatting. So say I'm looking at this, and I think this is mostly great, but I'm looking at slide. It's not slide 7 anymore. It was the other day, but I'm looking at slide. It did not copy. One moment. I apologize. Especially online people, I know we're back and forth. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Okay, so I come back over here and I say, so I'm looking at this, it gave me this image, and I think that's not great. So I say, generate a different image for slide 6, represent statuses changing, whatever I want to say. This is a rough prompt. You could be more detailed, and you probably get a better one. But it's going to think for a second, and you'll see it'll pop up this designer window. It'll have 4 little ones, and it gives you 4 at a time. It tries to give you some options so that if you don't like one of them, you don't have to do it every single time over and over. But it'll give me 4 options here. It'll take just 5-10 seconds or so. We'll see what they look like. And then if I like these, I can put it on my slide instead. If I don't, I can ask it to go again, go get an image from Google, whatever I feel like I need to do for what I'm trying to achieve. While that looks, do I have any questions on PowerPoint? Okay, there we go. So status is changing. Do any of these represent statuses changing well? I'm not sure. I will leave that up to y'all. But if I think they do, I can click on it. I can tell it to insert, and it should just put it directly on that slide. Perfect. And now I can size it down, cover up this other image, and great. I'm ready to go. So there's an example of generating and how you can use it to help you as you're continuing to work on these slides. Questions on PowerPoint? Okay, we'll keep moving. The music has calmed down for my online people, so I should return to a normal talking volume, at least for now. If I start yelling at you again, I apologize. Just I'll let you control your volume. Okay, Outlook next. So moving on to Outlook, there's a few very nice features that Outlook has with M365 Copilot. One is a pretty obvious one based on the other topics we've mentioned, but allows you to draft new emails or help you coach on your message clarity or content based on what you're trying to say. The other one, you can summarize a specific day worth of emails or a full thread. You get added to a thread, you start scrolling through so you can read it from the start, and you're going 10 emails, 15 emails, 30 emails. How long is this thread? And you go, I don't want to read this entire thing, right? You can have it summarize that for you, get the key points, and just read the details that matter. It can also do things like help you set up inbox rules, automatic replies, and just kind of simplify those processes for you. I know it can be frustrating to dig around in the settings and try to go, where are inbox rules? I can't remember. Where can I find how to set up an automatic reply? And so if you have this, you can just go, Copilot, I need to set this rule, help me set it, and it'll give you that. So let's do some examples. So you're gonna see my email. So we've recently been doing some stuff with time clock, and so you'll see we've had some conversation about that. I'm not going to show that whole thread, but basically we're having issues. We're talking with our support people for it, and they just replied the other day saying it was fixed. And so I can come in here, Copilot will give me a summary of that, and that is great. but say I then want to reply to that. I can reply, and then when I am replying, close this. I've got more space. Apologize if this is small for y'all, but when I'm replying, I've got this little open Copilot button. So I can click on that. It says, what do you want it to say? And so I'll type in that prompt I said, so reply to the most recent email in this thread, acknowledging the update and informing them that it has resolved the issue that we are facing. And so instead of me having to do the thinking here, I can just pass that work off to Copilot, get back to my other task. And so it's got this nice little email wrote up saying, hope you're doing well, being kind and courteous, and acknowledging that we got the update, it fixed the issue that we were having, and we appreciate their prompt assistance because it was just about a day or so that we had this issue. And then you can review that. You can even use Copilot, to review that again, but probably want to have your own eyes on it at some point in that process. And if you're good, then you can send that email away, and it's nice and simple. Another example, so summarize an email thread. Let me pull up my notes to see what thread reflects that. Okay, so summarize example, you kind of saw for a second there, but if any of you have student employees, you would have probably seen this, but back at the end of last year, we had this thread with Student Employment Office where we were talking about kind of winter hours for student employees, how much can they work, how does that work? And so I can just pull that up. If there's a long thread, like I said, I don't have time to catch up on all it, but I need to get the key points. Pull up that thread, tell it to summarize. It'll think for a second, and it'll go, here's your summary. So it gives me the timeline. It says, what my response said and when they got back to us, and let me know that it's all resolved in the end and what that solution was. So it helps you kind of quickly and easily get the key details without having to read through the entire thing. Lastly, last one for Outlook, the best rule of them all in here. So if you want to create a rule, right? You're getting spammed with emails from someone, you don't really know who it is, they're just emailing you all the time, they're giving you these tasks to do. You can come in, and if I go back to my home site, I open up Copilot over here, right? And I say, it gives you, again, it always has the suggestions for you, so the different things that you can try to do. And I say, create an inbox rule for me, sending all emails from Amanda Pritchard to the deleted items folder, because I can't do it anymore, right? I press enter, it thinks for just a second. This one it shouldn't have too much issue with, and you'll see that it should just pop me up right to that screen. I don't have to worry about digging around in settings and go figure out where that is. It does struggle a little bit to pick the person, so it has Amanda, but it doesn't really. But if I just click in here and exit out, I can get Amanda. Why it does that, I'm not sure. We're working on that, but you can see it gives me, and actually, I apologize because it's not actually working. It didn't add an action. So as I mentioned earlier, it's not infallible. You definitely want to double check it. I did this the other day and it did work, so I don't know why it's choosing not to do that now. It might be that I had those quotes in the draft and that messed it up. But it can still, bypass that work for you of having to remember where do I get into my settings and find those rules. And typically it works to help you do rules like that. It can also do things like out of office. You're on vacation for the next week. You don't want to worry about that setting. You can say, write me a quick out of office saying that I'm gone. I'll be back on this date, and it'll write that for you. You don't have to worry about that. That's Outlook. Questions on Outlook? Yes.
Can we do a reverse thing, Mika? So let's say we did send Amanda's picture to the deleted items folder. Can we undelete
Amanda,
that?
have you tested? I have not.
Can you hear me all right?
I think I got muted for some reason there. Can y'all hear me again?
Yes.
I believe y'all can hear me. Please let me know if not. Apologies on that. So there was a question about if you're having it summarize a thread, will it detect files and let you know what's happening in the file as well? It's something I need to test to be 100% on, but I believe, and I guess I can close Teams. It'll detect that there is a file, but it might not pull the content from the file directly. But you can always pull up that file afterwards, separately and say, summarize this for me if you really need to do that.
Hey, Mika, on the deleted items folder, can you undo it?
1 second. Sorry.
Can you undo
yes,
it?
go ahead.
On the create an inbox rule, sending all meals from Amanda to deleted items folder. So let's say it happens. Then can you instruct it to undo it, book it back to the inbox folder?
It's not something I've tested before. So for my in-person people, there's a question about if you use it to create a rule, send all Amanda's emails to deleted items folder, could you then tell it again, say, instead of sending them to deleted items, send them to inbox? So I haven't tested, Professor, if you can just directly say, undo, but I'm pretty much positive you could ask it, say you have that and then 2 weeks later you come back to it. I think you could tell it, go delete this rule for me and tell it the name of the rule, or it could definitely help you with doing that. But the way you described, I'm not sure if it does it exactly that way, but yes, you could definitely have it help.
I was hoping it could do that because I've been working with OIT for the last couple of weeks to undo the mails that come from the library. Automatically, the mails that come from library go to the deleted folder. And I want to undo that. We have not succeeded doing it manually. So anyway,
okay,
we'll catch up that later. Okay.
Yeah, we'll follow up afterwards with you.
Yeah.
Another in-person question. Yeah, so the question from our in-person people was, how does this change searching for emails in Outlook? So you can see I'm on the search dropdown right here. There's no Copilot specific thing in the search dropdown, but if you just pop out the chat, you can ask it. And so you can see, I don't know, what's a good example here? I told you she spams me. Find emails from Amanda Pritchard, and this should work. So it doesn't do it in the search itself, but you can use that chat and help it find your email. So there you go. There's a whole lot of them. So I'm gonna tell it to stop, but you can see in there it looks and it goes fine. You just do it in the chat instead of in the search bar like you're used to. Yeah. Okay. Was there any other questions for my online people? I think in person is good. It's getting loud here again, so if I start yelling, forgive me. I see Joseph has his hand up.
Is it best practice to create your rules in Outlook on the web?
Yes, it is best practice, I would say, to create them on the web. What can happen if you create rules in your local Outlook client? So for my in-person people, sorry, I should summarize. It's very loud here. There's a question about, is it best practice to create your rules in Outlook on the web versus on your desktop client? And generally, we would say it is, because if you do on the desktop client and then you change computer, it doesn't get authenticated, you can have this situation where your rules get stuck on a local version of Outlook. And so that might be the case with you, Dr. Srivastava. We'll have to double check. But you might have a rule that's not showing when you go and look on the web because it's stuck on a local client. Whereas if you create them all on the web directly syncs with the server, and you never have that issue of things showing differently in different places. It's getting very loud here. Apologies, y'all. Okay. I think that sounds like all of our Outlook questions. Let's get into Teams. We got 15-ish minutes left at the max. So let's get through this, and then I'll answer kind of any other sporadic questions. They're having a party or something. It is loud. Okay, so Teams, similar to Outlook, it's got a few great features in here. Summarizing content is one of those, very similar to Outlook. So you can have it summarize content from individual or group chats. It currently can't do this in channels. So if you're in a team and you have a channel that you want to summarize, it can't do that. But if you have a group chat, say with your whole direct team, you have 5 or 10 people in there, you're out of office for a week, you can say, summarize what happened in the last week, give me the kind of action items that need to happen so that I can make sure those are followed up on, and it's able to go look back through that chat. So any individual message or group chat it can do, just not channels yet at this point. Aside from that, similar to all the other ones, you have the chat little bar that pops out as well, and you can kind of ask that any questions, provide summaries, let you know when meetings are upcoming. There's a suggestion that it'll give you to help you prep for meetings, and so it'll look at that meeting and try to see if you have any messages or emails that refer to that meeting and pull those for you so that you're not missing things between all the different meetings and stuff that we're occupied with. It's getting very loud. I apologize. Hopefully that's still not coming through, but it's definitely affecting us here. Okay, so let me show a couple quick examples of this. So in chat, you can see I've got this prompt here. I want to summarize chat topics from me for a specific date. And so if I go over to Team, you'll see my Teams group chat. There's been a little bit going on there, but don't worry about that. I do Copilot right here. I give it this prompt, and it's going to go look at that. And you can see there's my summary. So it's looking at that specific day. That's from this Monday, right? And so it's giving kind of highlights in all the conversations and action items that need to happen so that we can make sure those are followed up on. It makes it a lot easier to make sure those things that happen, in random chat conversations aren't then forgotten later down the road. Another example is meeting recaps. This is super nice functionality. You can do this both in live meetings and on recorded meetings. So it might work best just to show in this meeting. So hopefully you aren't in an infinite loop of seeing me. But if I come here and I do open Copilot, you can see it'll have the transcription from this meeting. That's what it does it based off of, is the meeting transcription. And I can say summarize this meeting so far, or you can say catch me up, or you can ask a targeted question, and it should be able to look at this transcript and let me know all the different things that are happening. You have the same kind of functionality for after the fact. If you missed a meeting but it was recorded and transcribed, you can come back to it and say, let me know the action items, what was discussed in this meeting, who discussed them. It makes it really easy to get those points after the fact, even if you weren't there. So you can see there's the full summary. It mentions PowerPoint, Excel, Teams, all the very scattered topics that we have been through. Or not scattered, just quick. So those are the two kind of main functions that you have in Teams. Those meeting options, helping you catch up on topics there, and then doing it in chats. Again, just chats, whether individual or group, they both work, just not channels for now. I imagine that is coming on Microsoft's roadmap down the line, just not functionality that is currently present. Any questions on Copilot with Teams? Okay. Well, then let's move on. We might wrap up here in just a few. I'm not going to showcase these just because I thought there was a time limitation, and they're kind of less used tools, although the forms quite a few of you might use. But these are the only other 3 tools that Copilot currently works with. There's a couple Microsoft tools that it doesn't have direct functions with at the moment. But these are 3 which I'm not going to go in depth on that it does. So forms that can help you draft new forms or suggest improvements to make them more streamlined or more engaging. Loop, if you're not familiar with Loop, it's like OneNote. If you're not familiar with OneNote, it helps you take notes, but you can use it to help you organize those, create templates like we asked about earlier, summarize notes that you might have missed, all those good functions. And then the whiteboard, you can have it again, summarize content, suggest ideas, categorize things for you, even create designs. So a lot of good functionality there, just don't have time to showcase today. But again, as with all of them, happy to answer any questions after the fact on. With that said, let's talk access. This will be our last main topic. I alluded to this a lot at the start, but Copilot for M365, as well as some other kind of similar functions, are in a limited pilot program. So this is mostly within OIT, as well as some limited individuals outside of OIT. It is something that we want to expand more, but as I mentioned, we're evaluating both cost and just mechanics of how do we license users across campus for this. So we're already evaluating it, but we would love, if you're interested, you can scan this code and fill out this form. We'll get the link put in chat as well. Filling out this form helps us gauge interest. It's important to note it is not a guarantee that you're going to get access to M365 Copilot immediately or anything, but having that interest level across campus and all these different kind of presentations we're doing this week, it helps us as we're continuing these conversations to evaluate cost and the mechanics of how we would need to license these people. So if you're interested, scan that QR code. I'll leave it there for, I don't know, 15 more seconds or so as I ramble, but we'll get the link for the form in chat as well. So if you're interested, fill that out. Just note again that it is not a guarantee of access, that we're already looking and we'll continue to see how we can expand this for more of campus. With that said, very last topic, one more form for you. This form is just for the session itself. So for this whole week of AI, we have this form that just asks for session feedback. We're really happy we're able to do this, but it's our first time doing a full week of presentations like this. So we want to get any feedback we can, see how we can improve for the future, and hopefully do it again at some other point. So if you would scan this one as well, let us know your feedback. Similarly, we'll get the link for that put in chat as well so that you can directly access it if you don't want to scan it with your phone. But otherwise, that has been M365 Copilot. Thank you for all bearing with me. I know we had some audio issues and such, and that it was a very rapid fire question, but hopefully y'all got some good details from that, and it makes you a little bit more excited for AI and Microsoft Copilot specifically. Yeah, let us know your feedback. If you have questions that we didn't get time to in this session, please let us know. But otherwise, thank you so much for attending.